Yeah, let's talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how we be ballin', playing with the Wizards. Let's talk about the Nats and how they always got good pictures. Let's talk about the cats who rescue, turn them boys to winners. Injuries and updates, oh yeah. To the opponent, we stand toe to toe, yeah. To the top, this podcast gonna go, yeah. I think it's something you should know, yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry, and joining me, it's the Stoner.
What's up, Nathan?
It's just the two of us. Trev couldn't make it tonight. No worries. He's doing his thing. We will have him back for most of our content. As always, we love Trev and wish him the best in his adventure tonight. It's episode 60 here of Ref the District. Yes, the big 6-0. And it's also happens to be the NFL's league start date. So free agency officially kicked off. Obviously tampering. We did a couple videos on those. Some updates for today is going to be in today's game. If you want to check out all of the content we've had, go out to our YouTube page. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. You'll find out all the good stuff that we're having to talk about, to include our NCAA brackets that we shared today. We'll talk about that here in the warm-up a little bit, also with some discussion on the DMV and in the cool down. We'll cool down with some other DC sports. The Wiz are not doing good. The Nats are going to actually play baseball, and they just signed a fan favorite today. And the Caps have a Hall of Famer on their roster who made a pretty big, exciting jump just this last game. So all that's coming in the cool down. Again, the game will be free agency. We stream our podcasts live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Wednesday at 7:30. Of course, go out to our YouTube page. You'll find some other great content we can have there. But our podcast specifically can be listened to anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Yes, that's right. Ref the District. Let's go ahead and get into the game, or to this warm up here with the NCAA tournament coming up. Sparty's not going to do well. I mean, you know that I picked against him partly just to spite you.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what friends do. Yeah, that's what friends do. We had a little bit of a lively conversation. If you haven't checked out our video on the bracket, you can check that out. We're probably going to duplicate some effort here. But one thing we wanted to talk about, especially with this crowd, because we know this is a DC DMV crowd. What teams do you consider to be a part of the DMV when we say that? Because it was brought up on that particular video, and you argued there were no DMV teams.
Correct.
And
that is correct.
Trev and I pointed out a few Virginia teams, to include the Hokies, that happen to be in there.
That's Virginia. That's not DMV. That, even though the V stands for Virginia, it doesn't include the entire
stand for
state.
Nova.
It doesn't include the entire state when you talk about DMV. And I know there's people out there that understand that the DMV is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And the Maryland and Virginia is just the parts that surround DC. So Vatek doesn't, Virginia, Longwood, all those schools out there, Richmond, even like Towson, which is near Baltimore. None of those schools are considered DMV. So the DMV are George Mason, GW, which is George Washington, Georgetown, a lot of Georges, Maryland. And that's it. That's your DMV teams when you're talking Division I basketball. So sorry, no DMV teams made the tournament.
P4 is agreeing with you on that. Shout out to P4, Tiho, and Katie, who's trolling us by trying to say the D stands for Delaware. I do know that there are several people who believe that to be true. Yeah. No one cares about Delaware.
That's
true.
But
I agree with you as far as where those teams, which teams are. I think even Maryland could be considered a bubble on that particular thing. I think that when you're really looking at it, it's that Beltway. think they're just
inside
outside
the Beltway. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just trying to throw some of our Virginia fans a little love there. With the Hokies, obviously Richmond made it, but
and Virginia Tech, they just stormed through the ACC tournament. That was pretty impressive because I think they were pretty much a bubble team, but they obviously played their way off the bubble by winning the tournament. And then you have Longwood, who won their tournament. Longwood has been Division I for, 10 years, maybe at the most. So this is their first time in the tournament. And so that's a pretty cool story as well. And of course, Richmond, they're close, but they don't fit into the DMV, but they're always a good story when they get in the tournament as well. So that's
one of the better mascots, right? The Spiders, right?
Yeah, Richmond Spiders, right?
It's fun.
What's a
fun.
Hokie, by the way?
Bonafide picker, Stoner. Do you know how alumni live in Northern Virginia that went to Tech and Richmond?
Good, great for them.
Nice. That's what I was trying to tell him. It's like with this particular crowd we're talking about. There's a lot of DMV.
I'm a Michigan State guy, but nobody wants to hear me going on and on about Michigan State. I live in the DMV area, and I'm a Michigan State guy. Nobody cares about Michigan State around here. There's a Michigan State bar, but in DC, but that's for
pretty sure
40,
there's a bar
people.
Designated for every
exactly
big school or team. I mean,
so Bonafide picker. You know what you can do. Come back and see us again every time we
always appreciate the views and the conversation here. NCAA tournament, obviously the first 4 games playing out really starts tomorrow, really kicks off tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
the real tournament starts tomorrow.
Which of these first games are you most excited about? That's the question that we didn't ask in the video.
I'm really in the West, the 7-10, which is the Michigan State Davidson game. Davidson's going
to win.
Davidson's point guard is a Michigan State transfer. He was supposed to be a stud at Michigan State, but he's like 5'10", I think. He's just a tiny dude. So he had to kind of step down a level in order to get some good playing time. And he's their leading scorer. So I'm going to be interested in that game. I think that's Friday night. I'm going to stay up late to watch that particular one. That's really the only game that I'll be focused on, but I'll watch as many games as possible just because it's fun to watch upsets and watch some of these players emerge as stars. That's always fun to see, and coaches and buzzer beaters, all the good stuff that's great about this tournament. I love it. I love watching tournament games.
It is fun. It's March Madness for a reason. It gets a lot of people involved, even if they don't watch college basketball. So it's always, I think that's good for the sport. What's your method for picking your bracket?
Well, that's an interesting that you brought that up. The bracket that is part of the Ref the District challenge and has been put out there is not my real bracket. I just want to say that right now. If it wins, if it's scores well, then it's my real bracket. But I'm telling you right now, that's not my real bracket. My real bracket will be revealed tomorrow before the games start. And my method is, since you asked, I can't tell you.
Else.
I can't tell you.
It's copying somebody else, folks. I knew the answer.
Any
good lawyer, you know the answer before you ask the question.
Right. If I tell you, then you're gonna copy mine.
Yeah,
because
tell people,
mine does very well.
Tell people how you copy somebody else's work for your bracket, Stoner. You are the Tom Brady of NCAA brackets, just cheating your way to the top.
Hey, I'm not going to tell you how it happens. How do you do it? Do you just do, I like their uniforms, or hey,
no, I'm not a color
cool
picker.
School.
I'm not a uniform picker.
Yeah.
I'm a stats nut, right?
Oh, okay.
I like that, those kind of things. So I go off of that, and then I use a little bit of my gut. Like, that it's not just going to be the top teams winning, even though I'm pretty boring most of my time. The top teams do end up, going to the top, rising to the top there.
Yeah.
I do pick a few upsets, and it's based off of kind of the matchups of what teams are good, what I think they're good at. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. We'll see, please, we post in our community posts, our brackets. Let us know who you think is going to be there. Of course, we talked about it at length in the video that posted this morning. Check that out. Let us know what you think and what are your exciting games and stuff. That's what we all talked about there. But I don't want to talk I don't want to talk anymore because we got a lot of stuff to talk about here as free agency kicked off with a whimper for the Washington Commanders, though there was at least one exciting news. That's all coming up here on The Game. The Game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and D.C. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running. All right, welcome back to The Game, where we're going to be talking about Washington Commanders and the moves they made and didn't make here as free agency has started. Now, we are streaming this live, as I mentioned, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We'll be posting it afterwards to our audio platforms. If something drops in the middle of this, we need your assistance. We're going to be kind of monitoring
we need to know
as we're going. But right now, it is currently 7:41 in the evening of the first day of free agency. And Washington, under Ron Rivera, has historically kind of liked to do things a little bit later at night. Makes those moves after you go to bed. Is there going to be anything that happens tonight? We'll see. Because one of the things that they've done today is they've opened up some cap space.
Yes.
So Landon Collins has officially been released. Now that's a June 1st designation. So that's pretty important to note because his money is still on the books until June 1st. But then they'll have another like $10 million in cap space available for them to sign. So
that's right.
Keep that in mind. They still have to sign rookie contracts. So I think they have to keep about $4 to $5 million for those rookie contracts.
Although I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe those rookie contracts, that money is already been spoken for, if you will, when you look at their cap space.
Could be.
I believe I've been told by the Twitter GMs and Twitter capologists. Yeah, that money has already been set aside when you look at how much cap space they have. That includes the rookie scale, the pay scale. You know, they all kind of fit into a certain pay scale, right? That's all put aside, or accounted for, or spoken for, whatever.
Good.
So you don't have to worry about that when you're looking at how much space they have, which can differ everywhere you look, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard.
Last I'd seen, they have about 10 million now. 10 to 20 million is what I'm seeing in different ranges that have been given out there from our capologists. What do you think they're planning to do with that cap space?
I don't know yet because there's just so much. I mean, this is day one. We had the legal tampering for 2 days, right? But this is still
the
day
illegal
one.
tampering since the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly, right? But nobody can officially sign until today. And we saw how that can play out with J.D. McKissic, which we'll talk about later. But you never know what's going to happen between now and training camp. You don't know if they're going to sign guys. Guys can still get released that you weren't expecting. And we saw that today with Washington.
Saw that today. Yeah, multiple names that people were not expecting.
So it's just hard to say. And it's crazy to me to see people out there who are just talking about how this team is worse off than they were when last season ended. Well, it's day one. Give it a few months before you can make that declaration.
The roster in March is not going to be the roster going into game one of the season. So it's
not close.
And it's important not to overreact from some of these things, but there were some things done today that really had people question.
Sure.
In fact, the video thumbnail, it's what's the plan? Because there were some things, as Tiho brought up in his comment earlier that we shared on screen. Matt Ioannidis was released today.
Yep.
DeShazer Everett released today. Ereck Flowers released today. That was a $10 million gain for the team, but most people would have said E-Flow played very well He was a good guard for Washington, and now what's the plan? Are you putting Sadiq Charles into that position? Most fans were not pleased with the work that Sadiq Charles had put forth.
Yeah.
Does this mean that they're going to, with one of their 5 picks that they're going to have, draft another interior lineman? You know, they already lost Scherff on the year.
Yeah.
So what's the plan?
Yeah, that's to be determined, of course, right? Because who knows? Maybe they re-sign Ereck Flowers. We don't know. They absolutely could. Maybe they talked to him about restructuring his contract and he didn't want any part of it. So they released him and he's going to be a free agent now. And he's going to look out there and he's like, well, other teams are not going to give me anything close to what Washington was talking about in the restructure. I'll just go back and sign with Washington. Who knows? That could happen. Matt Ioannidis, maybe there's some hurt feelings there, so he's probably not going to come back.
We'll talk about those hurt feelings right now because you brought up Matt Ioannidis. So
who knows what their plan is? But I guarantee you this. This staff, this front office, Ron, Marty, Rod, whoever, all these guys, and there's plenty of them, they have a plan. They haven't told my dumbass what that plan is. They haven't told your dumbass and they haven't told all those people on Twitter
most often
what their
called
plan
a smartass, not a dumbass.
Okay, smartass. They haven't told us, and so we're out here thinking, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And plus, things are always fluid, right? We just have to wait until next January when their final record comes out, and you see what these guys did. When we look at last year's free agency moves, right? We were all like, "Oh man, they got
pretty excited."
They got the best receiver out
Jackson.
there. Yeah,
you know, whether or not you wanted Fitzmagic or not, at least it was a move.
And then what happens is you end up with a 7-9 team, 7-10 team. So you can look back at those. Free agent pickups, and you can say, well, those stunk, right? So, but you can't make that decision on what's been done this year until the entire season plays out. You can have an opinion on whether you like it or not, but you can't say this front office doesn't have a plan. They stink. They don't know what they're doing. I can't figure them out, all that stuff. You don't know. And you won't know until next year.
One of the things that is a little hopeful for fans with the creating the space as far as trying to figure out what they're doing with it, what they have up their sleeve, as P4 had commented, is it perhaps opening up the space to is that going to make a big free agent splash, or possibly what some fans are hoping is this going to be the extension on Terry McLaurin
or Payne or Sweat?
Could be any one of those. I think most people would want Terry re-signed. Hopefully that's going to be the case. Look who decided to join us, at least for a little bit. It is the one, the only Trevor.
What up?
So what's up, on, Trev? What's happening?
Doing,
where do you happen to be right now?
Waiting on this private party to start. They're running a little late. I'm on the podcast.
He's live.
My other bartender's watching it live. I'm not on
you're
there
live.
Yet, but, so I'm just waiting for them to get here. But I want to jump in and say hey to everybody and talk a little bit about what the hell was going on today with the Washington Commanders.
So let's get to the specifics then, Nathan. Okay. We were just kind of giving a general
dancing around
ideas.
A little bit. And bona fide, we'll get to that question.
Yeah, let's get to some specific guys or specific questions.
Matt Ioannidis was released. There's some bitterness there with his agent saying we don't appreciate being lied to. What do you think about Matt Ioannidis being released? Do you think it hurts?
Yeah, that one hurts. I liked him as a depth guy for us on the line. He could even start if he really wanted to. And to have his agent say that does not look good. I mean, he might be exaggerating, but it still does not look good about our front office. So that one hurts. That one stings.
And you know what was underreported? That was reported widely. What was underreported is that Mayhew called and apologized.
Yeah.
Right? He apologized to the agents.
That's nice.
Look, that wasn't our plan. 3 weeks ago.
I was about to say at the combine is when they asked. No, there's no plan. But that was also before the Carson Wentz trade.
Exactly. Yeah. Things change. This is the NFL. It's a business. And unfortunately, so I don't think he was lied to. I think they had planned on keeping him.
Yeah.
But things changed and the cap structure changed, and they had to say, sorry, we're going to cut you. And maybe they took a little bit too long. Maybe they could have told him when the tampering period started so that he could have more opportunities to get out there. But, you know,
I don't put too much.
A little bit of crime.
I don't put too much stock into the agent complaining. That's his job, is to look at that. Yes, Matt Ioannidis was, taken out of the free agency for a couple of days, but what's surprising about Matt Ioannidis being cut, and Trev, this is where you're saying that it hurts, is they just let Tim Settle go. So now you don't have the depth at the interior defensive line that you had prior. However, how much is that needed, right? So they already have a lot of money soaked into there. Maybe this is where they're going to get somebody on the cheap. We mentioned a name this week already, which was Daniel Wise. Mm-hmm. Being your depth, how many interior linemen D linemen do you need? So it'll be interesting to see how that void gets filled. Hopefully, he gets on his feet somewhere.
You don't need a backup defensive lineman making $8 million a year.
That's especially one. So Trev, you mentioned he was pretty good, right? So there was a 2-year span there. I think he had 16 sacks, and he looked very dominant. That's one of the reasons why he got that big payday. Last couple of years, now granted he had the injury that and then he was coming back from said injury.
Yeah,
didn't look nearly as dominant. So I think that again, help him. He'll probably sign with Buffalo. They're signing everybody anyways. But
not JD McKissic though. They're not signing him.
Yeah, since you brought it up, JD McKissic reversed course today.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you a chance, Trev, to apologize for the things you said.
No.
Yesterday,
I'm not elated
about JD
about
McKissic.
I'm not excited about it. It's not news to me. It's news, but it's not like worth really putting stock into it.
Yeah.
It crossed
no one's winning a Super Bowl off their third string or third down.
He's an idiot. Back. You had a chance to go to the Bills and contend for a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and you chose to come back to Washington.
But that to me is the biggest part of this story. Right. So I even said, JD McKissic, I would like to see him back. He was, the offense was better with him on the field. However, running backs tend to be the most replaceable parts. Mm-hmm. That being said, the biggest part about JD McKissic reversing course was that he's left a Super Bowl contending team to come back to Washington. That kind of, puts a little hole. He maybe have to do some drug testing, but a lot of fans are upset with Washington and they claim nobody wants to come to Washington. Mm-hmm. Now you have a player for not more money. It is literally the same contract.
I don't count that.
JD McKissic switches back and leaves Buffalo to come to Washington.
Why don't you count that, Trev?
Because he's already.
That's got to be worth something.
It's not like he's been here. So it's easier for him to say he wants to come back. It'd be different if we signed somebody brand new and they'd be like, "Oh, I want to come there," but that doesn't happen.
Okay, but also you can look at it. You can look at it and say he's already been here, so he understands the culture that's here already, and he wants to still be a part of that, right? Because he has already experienced it. Whereas before, you can say, "Well, I don't know really what it's like over in Washington. I'm going to check it out because they're going to give me a lot of money." This guy says, I've been here. I like the culture. I like what they're doing. I'm staying. I think that's the
offense too, right? A lot of people, don't like Scott Turner.
Okay, I just want you guys to know that.
Again, we're not talking like this is a world beater. I was with you, Trev. I said that running backs are the most replaceable, but the fact that you have a guy, any player. Okay. Who would rather go to Washington than a Super Bowl contending team, a team that took Kansas City, had a chance to be in the AFC. Like that is big. That to me is bigger than getting JD McKissic, the player. It's just having somebody outwardly
Gotcha.
turn down, like, same contract. Like I said, it's not like he was offered 3 years, $7 million, right, or something like that.
Okay.
And Washington was just like, we wanted to match. And J.D. McKissic heard this, was like, okay, let them match, and we're gonna stick around in Washington. I think that's a pretty big deal. It wasn't like Washington was like, no, we'll go ahead and do $10 million. He came back.
What about this?
Nah, I've read that on Twitter too. It's not real.
I'm pretty sure that's
making
people
that up
joking.
because
That's a
I
that's a
overloaded
joke.
that.
I
Yeah.
did see that right before we went
Before I
live.
get out
But
of here,
Captain
though, I do
Jay,
wanna
thanks for
mention,
jumping in there.
Really bummed about the Ereck Flowers move. That really bums me out. And Stoner,
Yeah.
right before I got on, I heard you saying maybe they could re-sign him down the road. Maybe the restructure wasn't to his liking. He'll go out there and be like, well, dang, ain't no money out here anyway, so I might as well stay in Washington.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah.
We saw Jen Leno, Charles Leno's wife, on Twitter expressing her feelings about the move personally. So that was a shock. Was not expecting that because there were rumblings about extending him possibly, or like,
Sure.
They needed to do
Terry,
something because he
but-
was going to cost $10 million against the cap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's
a lot of us were saying extend him. That reduces his cap hit, and maybe those talks didn't go well, and you just had to release him. I do think Ereck Flowers was a bit shocking. One of the things that Ron Rivera was beating the drum with when he was talking about going after QB and trying to be attractive for a superior QB was the offensive line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And after saying that, you've released both of your guards. One you lose in free agency to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the other one you just let go. So, is this offensive line still going to be one of the better units in the NFL next year without these two players?
Trev, what's your prediction for the for what they're doing with clearing all this space? What's your prediction they're going to do with that?
They're going to
extra
go get
money?
somebody big in the linebacker group. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to beef up a package to go get one of these Bobby Wagners or Jason Pierre-Paul. I don't know. One of these edge guys, linebacker guys. I don't know. That's my only guess. Because we're missing all the big name safeties. There's really not many big name wide receivers this year. Running backs, the ones that are left, they're washed. So
Yeah.
go get you Bobby Wagner, or now we focus on the draft. There's nothing left really.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what they're going to end up doing with that extra money that they're creating. I don't think it's going to be anything big. I think you're going to see a bunch of Bobby McCain type moves, from last year. The Bobby McCain type move, the from 2 years ago, the Logan Thomas move. Guys who you don't really recognize as being a big name. That this guy we can plug him in for a decent amount of money and he can help us out. That's what I think.
We still got
They're gonna
time.
go for
This is only officially
quantity.
day one, right?
Day one, man.
So
they've got
some big
a
names could be
long way to go.
released here pretty soon that we might not see coming. So, but I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I just want to come and jump on with my boys. I miss you guys. I gotta go do some work.
All right,
All
Trev,
right,
we
man.
appreciate you jumping on with us. You can check Trev out at Skybar, and that's where he's hosting this private party. Look at that place.
Big party.
So get with Trev. Hit him up if you're in the Lexington, Virginia area or anywhere near there. You can check out the Skybar in person. Let's continue our conversation here with the free agency moves. We talked about Matt Ioannidis being released, Ereck Flowers being released. DeShazer Everett was another.
That was an easy one.
He special teams guy. They just signed their other special teams ace. I have a feeling you're probably going to see him kind of in that captain spot. Trapke is or Apke. Troy Apke is of course who I'm talking about. He'll probably kind of take over that special teams captain role as the special teams
and
ace.
maybe even play some safety. Maybe
would be a disaster.
It would, but he's done it before.
They tried him out at corner this last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they're going to want to move him back to doing that. Another signing, which you're very lukewarm on Cam Sims, but that was official today as well. Was Cam Sims was signed to a
I'm okay
contract.
I'm okay with Cam Sims. I mean, again, if Cam Sims is playing in the game as a wide receiver, you're in trouble, right? But you need Cam Sims or somebody like Cam Sims that can jump in there once in a while to play receiver. You don't expect anything from him, but he's a special teamer, and he's just simply a depth guy. You have to have these guys on your roster. You have to have guys who are the 46th, the 47th, the 48th, and on guys on your roster. And these are guys that you can trust. And if he's willing to take a cheap deal to keep doing what he's doing, and he knows the offense, he knows the system, and he knows the staff and all of those.
He's also 6'5", which Washington's receiving core is a little small. I think that's somewhat important.
I don't ever want to see him out playing wide receiver. I don't ever want to see him playing wide receiver. I don't. Because that means it's bad.
They go into four, maybe 5 receiver set, and who are you putting out there?
Oh, I'm putting Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic before I'm putting Cam Sims out there. I mean, right now, if you looked at the people that they have, I would have De'Ami Brown and of course Terry McLaurin,
Curtis Samuel. Those two are
right,
the first
and then
two,
maybe
right?
Gibson and McKissic or Dax Milne even. I don't want Cam Sims.
You're putting Dax Milne above Cam Sims?
Probably not. That was just throwing it out there. But
got a little carried away with yourself, Stone.
Yeah.
Put it
I'm
down.
Just saying, he's simply a depth guy, and if he's playing, that means your big time players, your Curtis Samuel or your McLaurins or De'Ami or whatever, they're hurt. So that's bad that he's in there. But if you see him on special teams, that's great. That's fine. He does that well. Just keep doing that. You need those kind of guys. But I don't want him anywhere near the offensive formation. I don't want him in the huddle. I don't no. But if you just absolutely have to, then you have to. But you're going to end up losing that game because he's not going to help you win football games. But the J.D. McKissic thing, and I disagree with you guys on that. I think J.D. McKissic was an important piece, and I'm glad he's coming back. And I said that when they lost him. I thought he was very important to this team.
Time out. You can play back the tape from our episode Monday. I said he is an important piece. I would like to see him back.
Okay.
Reports are that it's not going to happen. And, thankfully, running back happens to be one of those positions that is like, I'd watched it today just to make sure that I got this correct. I actually did not say he was replaceable. I said that they would have to try to replace it, whether or not that's on the roster or through the draft.
Yeah.
But I expressed interest in keeping J.D. McKissic because this offense is different with him on the field.
But I thought you and Trev were in cahoots there for a few minutes ago talking about J.D. McKissic and he's unimportant. And
what I was
Didn't
talking
you say
about
that?
how no, what are you hearing?
I thought you said I'm with you, Trev.
Old man, turn up your hearing aid. We got the old man glasses on. Let's
All right.
turn up the hearing aid. I was talking about how important it is that he wanted to come back, regardless of the player that he is, right? That he's yes, he's a third down back, but it's an NFL football player wanting to come to Washington over a Super Bowl contending team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're spending absolutely big. So
here's something. Here's the thing, Tyrone. I'm going to pick on you here for a second, okay?
Thanks for watching the channel.
Yes, thank you. Before I, attack you a little bit here, but yes, what he did to Diggs was super impressive. What was the score of that game?
It was not in Washington's favor.
They got smoked, and part of the reason is because Cam Sims was playing offense that day. He made a play. That's great. Yay. So he's good for 1 or 2 of those a year. He's not special is what I'm saying. And that's fine. You don't have 53 special players. Nobody, even the Los Angeles Rams, who just won the Super Bowl, don't have 53 special players. But you need special players out there to make the plays to help you win games and let these other guys fill in where they may so he can do this 1 play per year, 2 plays a year. That's fine. He's very athletic. He's 6'5", but there's a reason he's in his 5th year and he can bear and he gets sent up and down from the practice squad 10 times a year. There's a reason for that. The coaches see him every day for 5 years, 2 different coaching staffs, all these different offensive coordinators and wide receivers coaches. They see him every single day, and they know what his limitations are. I want him on my team. I don't want him playing receiver every down.
And we will clip that up, and we will play that every time Cam Sims makes a play.
Well, it's once a year.
Season.
Yes, you get one view a year.
Looking at the stats, I mean, it really does back up what Stoner's talking about. This, I mean, he had the 2 touchdowns. One of those is the amazing play that Tyrone brought up in our comments
freaky athletic
when he got it out on Diggs. I do think, and I said this on Monday's video, I do think that there is some talent there. I do think that, as Tyrone brings it up, is it's not necessarily that they don't play him enough. It's that they don't use Cam Sims. And this signing, I don't think, for instance, if we're going to bring up the draft a little bit here, this signing doesn't stop them from getting a receiver in the draft. I don't think they're going to take one at 11, but they're not going to. You think they're going to take one at 11? I don't think they will. It's not going to stop them from that. Cam Sims, how many times did they run an offense in the red zone and Cam Sims wasn't out there? Mm-hmm. Your 6'5" guy is not out there when you're tight on space and you just want to throw. Sometimes, especially with Taylor Heineke, you're going to throw a jump ball. Okay. So, but as you said, they see him in practice. There's something there. They liked him well enough to re-sign him. I think that is good. We'll have to see where they can play him. I do think that with Carson Wentz, maybe there might be something there. Carson Wentz, his prime targets in his career have been 6'5" or over.
Yeah, big
partially
guys.
Helped out with Zach Ertz there.
But
Chris talking also in here that they still see some potential, and that he thinks they'll draft a wide receiver at 47. I think the second or third. Well, they don't have a 3rd round pick, so second round pick for a receiver, I think is
47, right?
Yeah,
okay, but the point on that is, yes, he's 6'5". Yes, he's athletic. Well, you know who else is 6'5" and athletic? Sammis Reyes. Okay, it's not enough to be 6'5" and athletic. You have to be able to do it on a consistent basis and be special at what you're doing. It's not just measurables. Guys can be combine freaks and then they can't play in the NFL. And some guys who are not combine freaks, who are terrible at the combine, can come out and just be amazing. And then there are guys who are combine freaks and who are great in the NFL as well. So it's just not so simple that you're going to say, well, he's 6'5" and he's athletic, and look what he did to Diggs. He should be playing every down. I don't believe that at all, because I trust the coaches. Again, like I said, this is 2 different coaching staffs that have had him, and they like him, but not enough to be a starter.
A young guy, that's something to think about. I mean, he's still young. He's not like he's a rookie or within the first couple of years there. Interesting point that you bring it up, that because we discussed in the video that was released this morning, you brought up the twins, identical twins on the team. One of them's going to be on Iowa. One of them's going to be NBA bound. The other one's not. And I told you that it's not, skill is not in your DNA. And here you're mentioning about how just because these are athletic doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be good. So that would be,
I said talent. Talent is not in the DNA. That's
talent's not.
You
in the
said
DNA.
talent.
I said talent's not in the DNA.
Talent is in the DNA.
No, athletic ability can be. That's that part is, but not necessarily the talent, and that's what we're kind of seeing there. They don't Tyrone. They don't use Cam Sims, and they don't use Sammis either in that red zone, and it's kind of frustrating when you see. Now, I liked DeAndre Carter. Appreciated what he brought to the team, especially on the return. In the return game, best returner we've had in quite a little bit. Granted, I mean, I think Steve Sims Jr.'s first year was pretty good, but then after that, some big problems. Yeah. But DeAndre Carter, I don't want to see 5'6" guy no, he's not 5'6", but I mean, a
Right,
tiny
You don't wanna
guy
see it
in the red
tiny.
zone. You don't want to see
Yeah.
him in the red zone. I'm going to get to Bonafide Picker's question here.
Okay, let's do that.
Before it gets too far up the comment chain.
Yeah.
And I lose it here. Now that the QB situation has changed, do you think Washington would have considered Baker Mayfield if they had not gotten Wentz? There was a big discussion at Bonafide's office today. Of course, Baker Mayfield came out, kind of talked to Cleveland and Cleveland fans, saying how much that he loves it there and it's a big part of his life. A lot of people took that as him whining because it was made very public that Cleveland was pursuing Deshaun Watson. So it looks like Baker Mayfield, whether or not it's Watson's going to go to Cleveland or not, Baker Mayfield probably has 1 year left in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this organization would want to pick up Baker, before they got Wentz?
I'm bringing this up again because I think there's a very important word in here when we get to this discussion, and that is, now that the QB situation has changed, do you think Washington would have considered Baker Mayfield or should have considered Baker Mayfield? So because that's two different questions, right? Would they have considered Baker Mayfield if they had not gotten Wentz? And that question is 100% they would have considered him if they were still in the situation without Carson Wentz. And they're sitting there going, we don't have a quarterback. If they're like Indianapolis or Carolina or teams that are sitting there without a bona fide starter and they're looking around, absolutely you would consider signing Baker Mayfield. Now, turning the clock back, should they have considered Baker Mayfield? You can't wait until all this time to try and figure out who your quarterback is. They did the smart thing by getting a guy that they 100% knew would have to come here because they traded for him. And they did the right thing. Whether or not it's going to work out, who knows? But they did the right thing to get an upgrade
to getting
at the
that
most
QB
important
and
position.
get that upgrade taken care of.
But would they have considered Baker Mayfield if they had not gotten Wentz? I think 100%.
I have to imagine that they
Taylor
probably
Heineke.
did inquire at some point, but maybe not seriously. I mean, this front office reportedly called up Kansas City for Mahomes.
Right.
They were not leaving any stone unturned. So I do think that they would have, if not had already kind of asked, what would you take to part ways with Baker? And even though Cleveland is ready to go to Deshaun Watson or appears ready to give up on Baker Mayfield, let's get this one thing straight here. Baker is going to start the season for Cleveland.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Let's get that out of the way. So they were not going to give up Baker for pennies. They were going to ask for multiple firsts and everything. So it doesn't matter that they're down on him to the point where they're looking for Deshaun Watson. It just matters that, that they have a number one overall pick who honestly is coming off an injured season, and they're still going to start him this next year. And maybe he lights it up and he might not stay in Cleveland if he does really well this next year. This is a team that was close to beating Kansas City the year before last. And then, Baker was injured this year. Whether or not he's trash or not, Gregory, I'm an OU guy. I'm a military brat born in Oklahoma, so sooner bred, sooner dead. I don't think Baker's trash. I don't think he was worth the number one overall pick. I don't think he's great. I do think that he's undervalued, but that's not to say that I think that that he's a great quarterback. It just.
But would you have considered him if you were Washington? If you were sitting in the exact same situation, but no Carson Wentz? No Carson Wentz right now. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh yeah. But like you mentioned, they did it. This situation didn't unravel until just now. Right. Exactly. So you can't wait until now to get there. And honestly, I don't think fans would have been patient enough for that.
right? I mean, they were.
Oh yeah.
You
If
know,
we were sitting there striking out on everybody,
yeah, fans were already unhappy that they lost out on the Wilson sweepstakes and that they weren't going to get there on the Watson sweepstakes. And then all of a sudden you have Mitch Trubisky spurring us for the Steelers. You probably have, Winston still unsigned, but if they don't go get him and Winston signs elsewhere, then all of a sudden, fans would be, very unhappy. And I know a lot of people are unhappy with the Wentz decision. Then they trade for Baker Mayfield. Fans would have lost their dang on minds.
You probably would have had to give up more for Baker than you did for Wentz.
Probably
had to give up more for him. And and when I look at those two, Baker Mayfield and Carson Wentz, it's like that Spider-Man meme looking at each other. Yeah, they're the same guy. They've shown flashes of brilliance, and they've shown that they suck, and they have dealt with a lot of injuries. I mean, it was just 2 years ago. Baker was, what were they, 11-5?
I think just 10-6, but they did make the playoffs, and again they
killed
pushed
Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, they pushed Kansas City to the limits there. So,
and he was hurt all last year. So can he overcome that and become the player he was 2 years ago, or is he what he was the other 3 years, which is basically just an average quarterback? Who knows? But I guarantee you this: he's better than Taylor Heineke in all facets. And around here, that's like finding gold at the end of the rainbow, or a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's something that you can put your hat on and say, all right, this is what we're going to go with. This is way better than we've had it before. Let's see how far we can go with it.
All right. Well, thank you, Bonafide, for that question. We're going to move on to Gerard's question.
Your boy, G. I like that.
Why do we think Carson Wentz is good? Why not get a free agent QB like Jacoby Brissett?
Why did you even put that up there? Sorry, Gerard, or whatever. That's a terrible question.
Man, these people, thank you for tuning into the channel.
I've been killing
They're just trashing everybody who's coming in here with some comments.
But seriously, I mean, Jacoby Brissett, all those guys, we had a show that we put together on kind of all of the available quarterbacks and the quarterback tiers that we would put them on. And we didn't put Jacoby Brissett. We didn't even talk about him. He's
D tier. He's
not even on the list. Yeah. But you can't do that. Ron can't afford to do that. He's going to lose his job if he has Mitch Trubisky or Jacoby Brissett or Joe Flacco or Sam Darnold or any of these guys. He's going to lose his job, and he knows it. So he cannot go with somebody like that, and he can't wait around for a possible free agent or a trade like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, guys who don't want to come here. So he had to go get somebody who's not A tier or whatever. What is that? S tier? The very top?
It was S tier, was the very top.
What does that stand for?
The stoner tier.
Yeah, the stoner tier. He's not the top, but he's not down at Taylor Heineke's level, and he's going to give this team a chance to win. He had to do it. Ron absolutely had to make that trade for the best he could for somebody who didn't have a choice to come here because you traded for him.
Gerard, I was on team free agent. That's the route that I wanted to go. I in fact was very public with not wanting Wentz here leading up to the trade. I just didn't see the value in giving away picks for a QB of Wentz or Garoppolo's stature when you can get a free agent like Winston. Trubisky, I think that there's probably a little bit more hype, and I think that he'll probably do well in Pittsburgh because that's a good organization, maybe not have the same success here. But I was just going that route because I didn't want to give up picks for QB like that. Now, that being said, Wentz, even though we rated him and at the back end of our B or C tier, I don't think that he's a bad quarterback. I do think that there's some reclamation project that we can have here. So I think that he can be good for the team. And much like some of these other ones, other fans here, I'm just going to get behind him. He's my QB now, right? He's QB1 as Washington Commanders have posted. So I'm going to get behind him, and I'm going to, we're going to pick apart his game. When he has a bad game, we're going to trash him.
Yep.
And when he has a great game, we're going to praise him. That's what we're going to do as fans. I think that it's going to be interesting. I do. We said this when they picked him up. He's better than Heinicke.
Yes.
Baker's better than Heinicke, but we also, we're not going to trash Heinicke. He's a solid backup.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy that he's in that position for Washington. If Wentz, who's injury prone, that it's overblown. He's actually not that as injury prone as you think. So just keep that in mind. But if he goes down, we at least have a solid backup to potentially win some games. So I think that's going to be good for Washington to have these kind of things going on there.
And this is a great point by Gerard, who counterpoints what I was saying. He absolutely could lose his job if Carson Wentz doesn't do what they brought him in to do. He absolutely could lose his job. If they don't win, at least I'm saying they've got to win at least 9 games for him to keep his job. Some people are saying 8 games. I don't know how you go with 7 wins, 8 wins and think that's okay. That's not okay. I think they have to win at least 9 games. And Carson Wentz is going to give you a better chance at doing that than a Jacoby Brissett, a Mitch Trubisky, a Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to give you a better chance. He absolutely could blow it as well, and everybody will lose their job. That could happen as well. But he's going to give you a better chance with Carson Wentz.
To show you how excited I was about this, my favorite part of the trade so far is that they haven't actually restructured his contract. Now, the $28 million is limiting Washington a little bit right now, but what that allows for the team to do is if he ends up not being the guy and they have a really bad year, next season they can cut ties with him and it's not going to be anything against the cap.
That's right.
And if that's the case, if they have to do that, I do think that Ron Rivera is going to go with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do that because now you can get a new coach who drafts their QB.
Yep.
In the first round, and it's their guy, and they develop together. And to me, that's the best part about this because it's a win-win essentially.
Because that hasn't happened.
Even if you lose, you're going to win because if they win and Wentz plays like he did that near MVP season, then you're good. You got your quarterback of the future. He's only 29 years old. And you only had to trade up a third and a second round pick because he's going to play more than 70% of the games. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's going to do that. And so that's great. But if he's bad, okay, we sucked for 1 year.
Yep.
Ron, thank you for changing the culture.
Yeah.
And Wentz, you're gone because you don't cost us anything to cut you loose. Yep. New coach, new QB next season. I don't want that. I want success now.
Right.
But I'm at least saying that the worst case scenario here, it's a full reset. And I think some fans would really appreciate that. So I think that's pretty good.
Gregory says, asking if he thinks that we're going to go after a QB in the draft.
Not before the 5th.
Not before the 5th round?
Not before the 5th round. If they get somebody, it is a project to be the QB3 sitting on the practice squad. It's not going to be someone who's going to challenge Heinicke for the backup spot. And it's certainly not going to change Wentz's status as QB1. So don't look for them to draft in the first couple of rounds. And that includes if Ritter, Howe are there at 47, it's just not going to happen.
It's not happening. Yeah. And this is just me. I don't know who all needs to hear this, but they're not drafting a quarterback at all. There's no reason to waste even a 5th rounder on a quarterback because those guys don't ever happen. There are only so many Tom Brady's and Kurt Warners in the world. There's 2 of them.
Kurt Warner was undrafted.
Right. That's what I mean. There's only 2 of those that's ever happened to. Name me another 5th round or later pick that has turned into something great. They're not drafting a quarterback this year. They're not going to have Carson Wentz looking over his shoulder. He is a little soft maybe I don't know if soft is the right word, but he's fragile.
One of the things that's reported
Right?
about him, right?
Yeah.
Is this the fact that he was unhappy in Philadelphia because of the Foles praise, and then
Right,
it's
exactly.
just not something.
And the
that
drafting
you
of
want to
Jalen
do.
Hurts,
Mhm.
right, in the second round, or I think that's when he was drafted, second or third round. But
Second round.
there's no reason to put that sort of pressure on everybody to have a quarterback that you drafted sitting there looking, and Carson Wentz has constantly got to be looking over his shoulder. And all of us Twitter folks and all that are out there screaming at Ron, play the rookie, play the rookie, play. They don't need that. They don't need the inside the building having two different camps, the Carson camp and the rookie camp. They don't need that. Ron doesn't need that. The team doesn't need that. There's no reason to draft a quarterback this year. Next year, different story.
All right. The lots of comments in there. We appreciate all the interaction, and we if you got another question, get it in there pretty quickly. I'm gonna cough, so Stoner, you're gonna have to.
Yeah. So so the quarterback situation this year is pretty much done. They're gonna find somebody to be that third quarterback. There's a bazillion third quarterbacks. So I mean, go sign Garrett Gilbert to be your third quarterback or whatever. It's going to be Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, some guy you never heard of is going to be your third guy because you don't have the COVID issues this year, so you don't have to worry about having a guy ready all the time. Those are going to be your two quarterbacks this year. Don't expect for them to draft anybody or for them to sign a Jameis Winston to come in and help out. Or, again, I mean, Tyrod Taylor signed, but I think Bridgewater signed somewhere as well. I don't remember. But it's not going to be a name, I'm telling you. Maybe Steven Montez comes back and plays that third quarterback again. The third quarterback is so inconsequential in this league that it can basically be a warm body.
Yeah,
I could do the job.
Hopefully the health and safety protocols and everything are behind us, so you don't necessarily have to go to that third and fourth string out there. Bridgewater did go to Miami, so
that's right.
He went that way. P4 brings up, and I saw that comment earlier, so I'm glad you put this one back in there. P4 says, I'm worried about the talk that Wentz isn't a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there's not smoke there on that particular topic. I do think that's probably overblown. There were a lot of Indianapolis players who came out in support of Wentz, and I think that says something. Now, I'm not saying that he was universally loved within that locker room. We do know that the owner didn't like him. And I think the GM was okay moving away from him. Obviously, had to be because they did the draft picks. I do think the coach still wanted him there and even said as much that he still believes him as the player and the person. So I think some of that leader stuff is overblown. Now, what's going to be interesting is that's been widely spread out here over the last couple of weeks that he's not a leader, right? That's something that we're hearing a lot of. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to react to that by proving to people that he's a leader. And I tweeted this out. And one of the things I would love for him to do is call up my man, Terry McLaurin, and the rest of the receivers and get yourself a little play date to toss the ball, work on that chemistry, start seeing some stuff like that. I think that we're going to see a little bit different side of Wentz because people are attacking his character. And so he's going to want to show, no, he is a leader. And we'll definitely hear, we're going to hear if he's not in that locker room. So that'll be something interesting.
Yeah. I don't worry too much about that. Look, I just need my quarterback to throw touchdowns, right? I don't necessarily need him to be a leader.
You Jeff George.
But if he is a leader on top of that, that's great. But like we always say, there are only so many quarterbacks that are perfect, right? Carson Wentz is not perfect. He has a lot of faults, but he is good enough if he plays up to his ability to lead this team to the playoffs. So all this little stuff, he's not a leader. He doesn't go and hang out with the boys, right? Because he's more on the religious side. He's a little bit fragile with his ego. yeah, you're going to nitpick him to death because he's a quarterback of your team. But just worry about what he does on Sundays and throwing the ball to Terry McLaurin, target him 12 to 15 times a game, and we're going to be all right. So don't worry too much about
People will be pretty happy with that. We have James in here. Can we realistically get Bobby Wagner and the Honey Badger to help this defense? We're going to even call that an or. Also, we need to protect Carson. What linemen can we get? Let's tackle that first question there with Bobby Wagner and the Honey Badger. I'm going to tell you right now, my take on what's going to happen the rest of this free agency is you can pretty much take a nap. Don't expect any big names. And that's going to be for a couple reasons. One, they have players that they want to resign, like Terry McLaurin and like Deron Payne, who they're going to need to give that money to. So I don't expect them to go after a big free agent. They're not going to want to go after a big free agent because they lost Scherff. This is the first time next season, next draft rather, will be potentially the first time in however long that Washington gets a comp pick because Scherff signed elsewhere and they're losing that level of talent to that big of a contract, and they didn't bring anybody on to replace him. So I think that, not that a third rounder's, gold and you can't, lose it for a quality player like Bobby Wagner or the Honey Badger, just that what value are you really getting out of that? So I don't see them making any big splash. Stoner, do you have a different opinion on that?
No, you're exactly right. They're not signing a Bobby Wagner or Honey Badger. They're not signing anybody of names, and they don't have to. We have to realize that, again, you don't have to have a name at every position. You just have to have you have to be able to find those diamonds in the rough. The guys like we talked about earlier, the Bobby McCains, I'm trying to think, the Matt Ioannidis, who you had never heard of,
the Cole
Holcombs. They're not great players, but they fit in, and you have other great players that you draft around them or sign and hope that they live up to those contracts. You need guys like that. You need the Ereck Flowers. I know they just released him, but there's a guy you found off the scrap heap. Logan Thomas is a guy. J.D. McKissic, you never really heard of him until he got here, and then he got his payday.
Cam Curl was a seventh-round pick.
Yeah, he's
guys. He's a dog. I think that he's a lot better than what his draft was. So
yeah, so you need all of these guys. You need to be able to identify who they are and fit them into those positions. You don't need all these names. You don't need Bobby Wagner. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, had a worse PFF rating for whatever that's worth, which I don't believe in that much. But he had a worse rating than Landon Collins did. And people were killing Collins, and worse than Bobby McCain. So he's a name. He makes some plays, but he gets toasted, especially in the run game, because he's a little undersized for a safety. Don't worry about names, folks. I don't think I've ever used that before, folks. Don't worry about names. Worry about positions and getting guys that can make plays. They don't have to be names and numbers.
Yeah, you need, and I think that's what we're going to see. Like you said, some of these signings, people loved having J.D. McKissic back. Stoner, you're one of them.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago, most people were just like J.D. McKissic.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
Right? This is not like people heard about him. They knew that he was offloaded by Seattle, but they were just, this is just a guy, right? It was just somebody. DeAndre Carter from last year. It was somebody who they signed.
Great example.
We have a 53-man roster video that we talked about, and a lot of people thought Carter would be cut because you could just have somebody else do if his sole responsibility was to be the kick returner. You don't want to waste a position on that. Now it turns out that he was a lot better at wide receiver than most people really expected.
That they thought, yep.
But this was somebody who they were able to get for cheap. So this is what they're going to do with the free agency. To answer your first part with the Wagner and Honey Badger part of that question, James. The second part, they do need to start filling up that lineman. I see a lot of comments in there about what they're going to do with that 11th pick. I'm also team trade down, but it takes two to tango. But do not be surprised to see a lineman taken with that 11th pick. I know a lot of you are also hoping for a wide receiver. To me, I want firepower as well. I don't think they're going to take a receiver at 11, but they need somebody who's going to have immediate impact. And I don't think taking a guard because you already have your tackles
Interior
taken
lineman.
care of. You don't need that, but don't be surprised to see, offensive linemen taken within their first 3 picks, which is rounds 1, 2, and 4. So because they don't have that 3rd round pick. But yes, I'm team trade back, but it does take 2 to tango.
Yeah.
And with some of these teams, it's kind of solidifying their QB situation. I don't necessarily think that you're going to have a trade partner to trade up to 11. Now it depends if there is somebody there at 11. You never know. Each year is kind of it's where the players fall.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows who's there at 11 that people want to jump up for? But
here's a question: What Nathan?
OPG Bubbles?
I don't think I've ever really
Thanks for
heard
watching
your opinion on Curtis Samuel.
You want my opinion pre-season, or do you want my opinion now?
Yeah, right now.
I think people are entirely too hard on him for missing last season with injury. I think this is a player that is very exciting to watch, and when healthy can make a difference. We saw that in his first game. He caught 4 passes. 3 of them went for first downs. Okay. Yeah. This is a player who can absolutely have an impact. I think he's too small to kind of do the Deebo Samuel thing, but he is a dynamic weapon for this offense when healthy. I think that really it was a disservice to him to keep him around instead of just throwing him on IR.
On IR, yeah.
He should have just been put on IR, but they kept him and then he kept being inactive. Or when he was active, he saw very few snaps. And I think that was a disservice to him because there was that fan expectation. There was that excitement that he was going to be explosive and he was going to be amazing. And then he comes in injured. Now, I do think that there was a little bit mismanagement with the groin injury that he had at the beginning of the year. Maybe if they'd shut him down early, he was on the PUP or IR early, and then you get him back healthy for the stretch run. Maybe that's the answer. Something needed to change there. I think that he's a dynamic player. I think that it'll be exciting. I do want taller receivers here. Not that they're necessary. You just need receivers who get separation. But I think having a taller receiver is what this, stop running out the Smurfs, the fun bunch and everybody. You need get a tall receiver to kind of mix it up there. Whether or not maybe that is just Logan Thomas. Maybe they're going to rely on their tight ends to be the height of the receiving core. But Curtis Samuel, I just want to see him healthy.
Production. Yeah.
So we get that production that we know we can get from him.
Yeah. It's sad. I don't know if that's sad. I don't think sad's the right word, but it's disappointing when a player gets hurt. It's not his fault that he got hurt. So to attack him and say he sucks because he was hurt all year, that's not fair. It's unfortunate, maybe that's the word, that he gets hurt and he barely plays the whole year. Curtis Samuel is a dynamic football player when healthy. And so therefore, if he is healthy this year, he is going to help this offense tremendously. If you look at this offense and you see Terry McLaurin plays to his potential, Curtis Samuel plays to his potential, Carson Wentz, Antonio Gibson, just those guys alone, we're not even talking about the Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissic, De'Ami Brown guys. We're talking about those 4 that I mentioned. If they play to their potential, this is going to be a high-powered, dynamic offense. But they have to do that, of course. That's another whole thing. Yeah. But the potential of these guys are excellent difference makers, special football players, if they can stay healthy and perform to that level. That's not a given, but it rivals a lot of offenses in the NFC, if only the NFC. There's a lot of AFC teams that just pwn them offensively, but it rivals a lot of NFC teams' offenses. So, yeah, I know it's asking a lot, but that's why you get these guys. That's why you sign Samuel to a huge deal, and that you trade for Carson Wentz and his $29 million cap hit, and you draft a Gibson and things like that, because they are dynamic difference makers, and you hope that they live up to it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go. Still a lot of time left before the draft to make some moves. So we don't want to get too far into the draft as far as what those plans are, because we need to see where they are. There's questions on middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Are they going to get one in free agency? Are they happy with who they have? Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis in the linebacker core, and when you're playing nickel, I think is okay. I'm not scared to play that.
Yeah.
But who are they going to get in free agency? I don't think they're going to target a wide receiver. I know a lot of people would be excited to see Allen Robinson. Julio Jones was a name mentioned in the chat a little bit
Jones
earlier.
Is washed. He's done.
He's
done. Come on.
His season in Tennessee was a bit of a disappointment. I'm not going to go as far as to say he was washed, because a lot of people are calling OBJ washed, and look what he did when he went to LA and he was seeing the targets that he wasn't seeing in Cleveland. So
yeah, for sure.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with free agency, going forward. Again, I don't think they're going to make a big splash. Stoner's with me on that.
Yeah.
So we'll see which guys they get. Freed up space today. And they'll get more space after June 1st when Landon Collins, who we didn't really talk about having been released as far as that, going to miss him in the box, not going to miss him in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Wish him the best. No. He'll find a landing spot, but I don't think
I see what you did there, a landing spot.
I don't think he's going to quite be as happy as he thinks he's going to be leaving Washington. So that's going to be something to keep an eye out as well.
Before we move on to the cool down, I just wanted to show this real quick, which I was going to mention this, but I didn't. But this to me is hilarious and true. Oh, sorry. That wasn't it. This one. Draft, middle linebacker, wide receiver, offensive guard, safety, and corner. You know what they drafted last year in the first 5 rounds? Middle linebacker, wide receiver, offensive guard, safety, and corner. Maybe not.
They drafted an offensive lineman.
Okay. Well, he was a guard,
and
tackle,
it was also middle linebacker, offensive lineman, wide receiver.
Right. I'm not saying in this
cornerback
order.
Then wide receiver. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily that order.
It wasn't in this order, but they're on the hook for this draft to draft the exact same draft as they had last year. Except for they had a tight end. And if they drafted a tight end this year, you'd be okay with that too.
I think most people would be okay with that. Logan Thomas coming off a pretty serious injury, north of 30. Bates really flashed, but he's not necessarily as dynamic that you'd hope in the receiving game, though I think he did flash. I think he flashed quite a bit there. So it'll be interesting.
That's crazy that it's the exact same needs this year as it was last year of what you drafted. And that's not good either.
It'll be interesting. That's going to wrap up our free agency talk for actually overtime anyways. But we're going to do a real quick cool down. We appreciate everybody jumping in. Stay here for the cool down because we're going to be talking our other DC sports teams and the moves that they've made coming up here. All right, welcome to the cool down. We're going to talk some of our other DC sports. Let's start with something positive.
Okay,
let's go to the Capitals.
Yeah, man.
Ovi, future Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Makes it to number 3 on the list. What do you think? Obviously, he was already a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
Already, right?
Sure.
But what's that say? What's that mean, really, that he was able to get to pass, into number 3 on his own?
Well, there are 2 players in the history of professional hockey in the United States who have more goals than Alex Ovechkin, and that's Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe. Basically, the 2 greatest players in the history of the game are the only 2 left in front of him. And he only has to get 127 more. Now, that's only about 3 years worth of production on the pace that he's doing. He's going to get there, and it's pretty amazing what he's doing. So, yeah, he's in 3rd place all by himself in the history of the game. That's pretty cool.
Good. I'm excited. So 120 more is to pass Wayne Gretzky. How far away is he from Howe?
I believe Howe is at 801. So he'll get there next year.
Next year. Okay.
That's
what
unless he goes on a ridiculous heater.
I wanted to see whether or not, we had another one to get there. So as far as
it'll be next year. But what's going to be really cool is he's going to hit number 800, which is a huge milestone, obviously, right? And then right after that, 801 is going to be to tie Gordie Howe, and then 802 is going to be to pass Gordie Howe. That's going to be an amazing kind of set of games that he's going to have. It'll be next year sometime. Assuming he stays healthy, of course, which he has basically his entire career for 17 years or whatever it's been.
All right, good. So let's sandwich some good news in with some bad news. There was some bad talk here. Washington Wizards continue to just not be the team that we were hoping they were going to be when they started 10-3. Quick thoughts on that.
I have no thoughts on that. I'm boycotting the Wizards, even though as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go watch the end of the Wizards.
I'm going to let you know that you just skip it.
Okay.
Just skip it. God. It's just, I'm going to give a quick upset. Again, we stream this live. Wizards are playing currently. The first quarter, when I was keeping up with it before the show, I was like, okay, we can watch this afterwards. It's currently 99-73.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not
so not worth watching. The Wiz, I think for some fans, they're okay with that because you want that lottery pick and the chance to potentially get there. And I just don't know that the Wiz they're definitely not playing well enough to get to the play-in games.
Yeah.
But they're not really playing well enough for me to be excited. Watching the games are pretty abysmal. They're not fun. You can have a losing team that's still fun, and they're just not fun to watch. There's still a lot of questions. KCP continues to see the majority of minutes when a lot of people would like to see Rui.
Yeah. Why are we playing KCP so many? Why are they playing KCP so many minutes? He's not your future. It's time to go ahead.
Avdia, who's also, mostly sidelined. You'd like to see more of him. And, especially, maybe in the point forward role, which is what he was kind of bringing up in the Europe leagues. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be something. One thing I will say, Kispert was an excellent pickup.
I love Kispert. He's a dog, man. He's going to be a good player. Now, he can't really do a whole lot creatively on his own, but he can knock down shots. He can hit the mid-range. He does a lot of little things. He's limited defensively as well, but I like him. That's what happens, right? In this area, you follow all different kinds of teams. You're a freaking Thunder fan. Get out of here again,
Oklahoma born because I was an Air Force brat born in Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. I've grown to love the Wizards. They're a team that I watch secondary to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish they were more exciting. Westbrook did help make that transition.
That's
but
true.
they're just not a good team. It's now 104-77. I'm not even going to keep this box score open.
Yeah, I'm not right now. Watch
it. Now let's get back to some good news real quick. The Washington Nationals signed back fan favorite Doolittle.
Yeah, okay. He's a piece. This is a team that's going to, with or without Doolittle, right? It's great that he's back. He is a fan favorite. Does great things in the community. With or without him, they're gonna be dabbling with that 100 loss mark this year, I believe, unless they do something here soon.
They reportedly said that they were going to go out and spend big this free agency. I think what they're trying to do is prove to Soto that they want to build a winner.
Yeah.
The designated hitter is the first time that it's going to be hitting full time for the Nationals. So that they signed a darn good designated hitter there.
Absolutely.
So
fringe Hall of Famer.
We're going to have a full on preview for the Nationals. So I don't want to dive too much in, but I just wanted to bring up the good news. Doolittle, he's somebody who you can be happy with for the team. So at least we're going to end on a positive note.
Fair enough.
So that's really what I wanted to do. Cade, we appreciate you jumping in here. We had lots to say on Wentz.
Oh, yeah.
Check that out during the game because that was we were actually about an hour and 20 minutes into the full podcast, which is 20 minutes over what we normally do.
Yeah.
And a large part of that was because we talked extensively about Wentz, our thoughts on him, and what the team can do in free agency to support him. So catch that out in this video if you're just jumping in, and check that out in that middle section. We stream live every Wednesday, 7:30, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're on our YouTube channel, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more great content surrounding your DC sports teams. And of course, then this goes on to all the audio platforms, so you can listen to it on the go, wherever you would like to listen to your podcast. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner. And until next time,
What's that?
be a fan.
We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans. Yeah, we are. And you know we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense. 1, 2, 3, let's go. And they give